1 Barrett Drive. That's the one.
All right. Thank you, sir. You're recognized for 3 minutes.
Sorry, can I open my mask?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I have some document to share. If you don't mind, can I share with you all? Thank you all, commissioners and Mr. Mayor. Thank you all have you visited in persons in our subdivisions and understand our concern. We have also learned some points which we have discussed. I would like to clarify about that. Before I proceed, I would like to clear some point. We are supporting rebuilding of the nice and beautiful building back of our backyard, which help our city. Our concern is rezoning. As far as rezoning stay OPS and owners of the lots follow the OPS zone, we are good. One of the concern was zone is already commercial and it's a minor change from OPS to CTS, and it will not make a big change. That is not true. The OPS to CTS is 180-degree change, which will impact neighborhood of people lives, which includes the health and safety. I will explain below, and I have given you the documents. Point was, the restaurants are already allowed in this OPS zone. So why it is big concern? It is not a true picture, or it's not a full picture. Currently, OPS zone has a P8 restrictions, which restricts a lot of fast food restaurants and timing. I will explain below, and I have also given you the documents for that. Other point was that XYZ place, the restaurants and shops are already next to the door. Why you are not allowing? If something has been done wrong, that does not mean we continue doing wrong. It is a time to fix ourselves, because lesson learned that our country learned from that. So if we have lesson learned from the wrongdoing, let's fix now. Other point was compromise. It has been told that let's compromise the subdivision people. Subdivision people have already compromised 15 years back. They did not want OPS zone when it was residence. That time it has been told that let's make OPS, it would be office building, nothing will be done. Now again we are hearing that okay, let's compromise something, and it's like that. So it is like it's slowly pushing the citizen and let commercial people do their activity. Majority of Clearville subdivision citizens are living in Mount Juliet since decades, even where the big businesses, including Amazon, was not knowing where Mount Juliet is. We have helped city. We have helped city to grow. We will continue help. We love businesses. We love local businesses. We just came out from a natural disaster. Now we are looking for your help to save us from the zone disaster chain, which are going to impact our life every time, forever. So to prove my case, here is some comparative study between the OPS zone and CTS one. So you can see on the first column, the CPS zone is a very restricted permissions, while CTS is allowing the wide range of commercial businesses, including retail, trades, consumer services, amusement and entertainment services, eating and drinking places, and more. The OPS zone has intent to restrict the relatively low volume traffic. Okay, sir. Sorry, I was not aware about that one. So if you look at the comparative study, sir, this is the one. You can see that one. Our concern is the automotive parking, productions of retail sales, mixed use of building, convenience retail sales, restaurants and full services. These all are going to impact us to change the one. So our concern, please understand, we are citizen. We always help to grow city. We will continue, but please help us not by changing the zone from OPS to CTS. That's my point.
Thank you, sir.
On the floor.
Up here, in the front, in the front.
I'm so sorry.
Name and address for the record, please.
Darren Cunningham, 1401 Fairview Drive here in Mount Juliet.
All right. You're recognized for 3 minutes.
All right. I'll give you my best 3 minutes I have here.
What was your last name?
I'm going to get you. I want to make some relevant points here. And I've heard some things from others around, been to the meetings and so on. And I want to make note that I understand that the commercial zoning is already there. There's plenty of things that people seem to object to that can already be done. So I don't want to make points about that at this point in time. But I do want to believe or point out some things. You know, I'm a believer in capitalism, makes our country go around. It's what the premise of our land is here for. I'm a real estate broker by trade, and I'm a land developer. So I typically am the one who's supporting and promoting growth and higher density and so on. In a successful real estate transaction in development, especially and things like that, it needs to be bilateral in nature and mutually beneficial for all parties involved. So then I started thinking about this. Who are the parties involved? So you've got, in my opinion, you've got three parties involved. You've got the citizens of Mount Juliet as one. You have the local residents of Clearview Estates as another. And you have the couple or three or four landowners that have the land right there on Mount Juliet Road that's potentially being rezoned. Who does it benefit? Who does it harm? So the citizens of Mount Juliet, I feel like it's a neutral to them. Does it really benefit them or does it harm them? It's kind of neutral to me. So more businesses can go there, but there's a lot of vacancies in commercial property right now. We're in a pandemic. The biggest thing that was hit was commercial property, one of the biggest. So there's openings there. So I don't think it's going to benefit the citizens of Mount Juliet by having conveniences there as opposed to one other place where they can go. The nearby residents, it doesn't benefit. You know, the things that you've probably heard from others tonight, increased traffic. It's already a situation when you pull out of Clearview Drive to Mount Juliet Road, you can't make a left-hand turn. So you add more businesses there, it's more traffic. With the increased number of people coming there for businesses, potential of increased crime is there. We're already right next to a Walmart. We don't need any more crime. You know, there's enough that comes with that. And then, you know, increased chances of businesses that would go there that are operating into later hours. And the businesses are there now, although it's not mandated that they are open only certain hours. By nature of those businesses, they typically are professional businesses that don't stay open past 5 or 6 and keeping lights on late to harm the neighbors who are nearby there. So, and then the 5 or so property owners, does it affect them? Yeah, it's really good for them. So they go from a situation where you can have one business there to maybe 4 or 5 on there. So now they can have a piece of property where their business is there, but they can have 4 or 5 tenants right next to them paying for their expenses on their business that they have. So they do benefit. But in the whole scenario, I feel like they're the only ones that do benefit from this. And I don't know. I feel like, you know, you're the elected officials that the city, the people here in Mount Juliet have elected to represent us the best. And is it in your best interest to represent the entire city of Mount Juliet by benefiting the 4 or 5 people that benefit from this? Is that, and I don't, that's a question I put back into you guys. If there's benefits I'm not seeing, then maybe I'm blind to it. But the further I dig into this, I just don't see it. So I ask that as a resident nearby, as a citizen of Mount Juliet, you take what I have here to say tonight at heart to heart when you look at whether or not you should vote for this. And I suggest you vote against the rezoning, unless alternative that I thought about is, what if you do rezone, but there's stipulations associated with it? Am I over?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You're quite all right.
All right. Thank you.
Well, Mayor, can we extend this time on that?
If
We let the other guy have almost 2 minutes over, so we can let him go
Yeah.
just a minute or two.
please.
Probably 30
What was
seconds.
your suggestion?
Yeah,
The
just
last thing
just
was,
wrap
and
it
here's
up.
where I'm unfamiliar, is there an opportunity to where this could be conditionally rezoned? Meaning the conditions would benefit the current landowners and the residents nearby mutually. And what would that look like? That's not something that can be decided here tonight, but that's something I think is an interesting concept as well. Could it be heavily restricted? Could you mandate that a massive landscape barrier is put behind them for noise reduction and light pollution would be decreased? That's where I'm a little bit outside of my realm of expertise, but I think something like that could benefit everybody as well. It's just a thought.
Thank you, sir.
Good. All right. Have a good night.
Thanks. Good evening.
Can we speak without a mask on? Okay. I don't want to do any protocol
Please
problems.
do.
My name is Neil Zabkar. I'm 1407 Fairview Drive. We have lived over there for approximately 30 years, and we were tornado victims. First off, I want to thank the city for all its help with the tornado victims. We really appreciate everything you all have done, including the permits and inspections and new roads. So thank you very much as far as that goes. I guess I can reiterate some of the things that Darren said, and we would like to see the zoning kept as it is. And if any changes would be maybe very conditional changes to the zoning, we'd like to see things basically stay as they are with the types of businesses that were there before, types of buildings would be upgraded, I'm sure, to more commercial status, more so than the residential looking buildings that were there before. We live directly in back of Lowe's. We have 7.5 acres, and we get a ton, especially since we lost all our trees and everything. We get a ton of light pollution and sound pollution from their outdoor loudspeakers and everything. We really don't want to see any more of that. So that's one of our concerns. The buffer zone in back of Lowe's is, they did do some repairs after the tornado, but it's still, the fence back there has a lot of holes in it, and it just really isn't being maintained very well. So buffer zones are kind of a tough deal in that they don't get maintained well. They may do well as far as sound and light, but if they're not maintained, it's just not a thing of beauty anymore. Again, we're more in favor of the single buildings with the individual businesses in there, and that's about it. So we'd like to keep the zoning the same and not changed. That's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We're in the meeting done now.
Is that it? All right. We have one more. Name and
Hi.
address for the record, please.
Jessica Gore, Paradesign, 2055 North Mount Juliet Road. I actually sent the commission an email, and I just wanted to read it into record for those that might be watching at home, for any residents or other citizens that might be interested in the rezone for the Davis Genevico property. That email read, that was sent Sunday. I'd like to begin by thanking each of you for your time over the past month to talk with me about the subject property. I understand many of you have met with homeowners as well. Before the meeting, I wanted to again reiterate my client's desire to build a quality professional project that would be an asset to the Mount Juliet community. The requested CTC zoning offers a number of uses that would ensure their investment success. You might not be aware, but Doctors Davis and Genevico have enlisted Agilitas Property Development to assist them in rebuilding because of their history with quality developments benefiting Mount Juliet. Agilitas is responsible for Town Center Plaza, where our Chamber of Commerce resides, as well as Children's Clinic East, Vanderbilt After Hours, DCI, Keller Williams, and many other professional offices, mine included, and restaurants. Likewise, Graves Crossing brought the TriStar Medical Building and other retail and restaurant uses. The Planning Commission made a positive recommendation for the rezone that had been included as part of their consent agenda as supported by city staff. I thank those of you who were able to support the rezone on the first City Commission reading. I appreciate others listening and considering more information. Our clients, too, had their livelihood greatly affected when their businesses were destroyed. While we understand and are certainly sympathetic to residents' fears of what is to come, we cannot argue against unsubstantiated fears that are sometimes fueled by social media platforms. The city zoning ordinance already has provisions in place for adjacent developments such as this. Our clients are aware and will comply with all city buffering requirements. I ask you also to consider that Mount Juliet Road is a 5-lane highway, and CTC is already on much of it. Further, CTC is adjacent to residential along Mount Juliet Road at the following locations: Sunset, Creekwood, Heather, Faulkner, Hatfield, Cross, Hillview, Due West, Oakmont, East Caldwell, Industrial, Division and Second Street, Old Lebanon Dirt Road. There are also vast amounts of property along Lebanon Road, zoned CG, allowing more intrusive uses and abutting residential. There are others where residential abuts CRC and CTC. We are asking for the more desirable CTC zoning that is appropriate for this main corridor into Mount Juliet. We respectfully ask that consideration be given for this type of project that Agilitas has and continues to bring, as well as the desire of these doctors to put this area back together again. I will add also the comments about crime. I mean, we can point to any neighborhood in Mount Juliet where petty crime happens. We can blame it on them coming over from Hermitage. We can, where I live, we can blame it on commercial. I think, unfortunately, it's something that does happen. And I think we also need to consider the fact that while Belinda City did not want Providence, I would say their home values have gone up exponentially since the development of Providence. And I would also ask that you consider the traffic woes associated with the schools are 2 peak times during the day for drop-offs, and also the schools are closed 3 months of the year. And I ask that you not penalize our client for being across from a school district when we can look down the street where the old high school is at Mount Juliet Middle School, where there are plenty of businesses that have not adversely affected the learning environment for those children. We will be here when our project is read during the regular meeting for any questions, and we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, is there anyone else? All right. Seeing no one else, we will adjourn the public hearing. If you're tuning in for the regular meeting, the public hearing has gone a little bit over, and that's okay. We're going to take about a 5-minute break, and then we will reconvene for the regular Board of Commissioners meeting. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is Mount Juliet Board of Commissioners. This is the January 11th, 2021 edition. So we will start this meeting off. I apologize again for being a few minutes late. Public comments went a bit longer than expected on that, but we have everything back on track. We're starting now. We will be adhering to Governor Lee's Executive Order 70, which will limit the number of people inside the room. If you wish to make citizen comments when we get to that point, they are the officers in the hallway that will direct you in here. Okay. All right. With that said, we have all four members of the body here. I will go ahead and declare the quorum. I will set the agenda as published unless there are any deviations, variations, or any of the sort that I'm not aware of. Hearing none, we will set the agenda as published. At this point, Chief, would you be willing to lead us in an invocation and pledge?
Let us pray. Eternal God, our Father, we come, Lord, we thank you for, Lord, this time that we're here. We ask for your grace, your mercy. Lord, we ask for your guidance as we go through the proceedings tonight. Lord, we thank you for all our elected officials, Lord, our employees, Lord, and our citizens of this great city. We are asked that you would just bless those. We're praying for those that have certainly been impacted by this pandemic. And Lord, we just pray that your hand would touch and would heal. Lord, we just honor you through this day. And we just give this time to you and ask that you would just have your way. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the December 28th meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Are there any changes to the minutes? I did have one, and I should have sent an email earlier, but since this appears to be my last opportunity to address it, the beginning of the minutes said the item for the Hayes Park was removed at said agenda, yet we heard the item. And then we unanimously deferred it. So I think that line needs to be struck. Any objections? All right. With that one change, all in favor of the minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Right, the minutes pass. Our next item on the agenda is citizen comments. If you have any comments to make to the Board of Commissioners, this is your one opportunity to address the board at this point. Ask that you would come forward at this time. If you're waiting outside or in the hallway, please contact an officer. We'll get you in here. We'll take a brief pause to let you speak. Anyone waiting that we know of? Got a thumbs up. Do we need to take any Sheila, any things that were sent to us? Do those just need to be acknowledged that we received them and they're part of the minutes? They were distributed. I know there were several emails that come in sent to the city
Yes.
recorder. We've been given copies of them, so just want you to know. I know a lot of people have reached
The
out to
only
me.
one that didn't speak was Patricia O'Brien about the opposed to the
Traffic
traffic
light.
light at Curd Road.
Yes, I think, yes, she's been here before, so.
Correct.
Yeah,
And she apologizes that she could not come in person.
perfect.
She actually is the one.
Just a second. Have to check my cheat sheet. We'll spread out.
Patricia's actually the one I was referring to at the last meeting when I said, remember months ago when someone came out and spoke against the traffic signal because of the exit out of the post office? She's the one.
She's been here. I know at least once to speak about that.
Yeah.
And it's a valid concern sometimes trying to get out. All right, we have I think waited appropriate amount of time. Seeing no one, we'll close citizen comments at this point. We'll move forward with commissioner reports and comment. Vice Mayor Ray Justice.
Very briefly, Happy New Year, everybody, and be safe. Do not claim 2021 as your own year yet. I think I posted this, tread softly. We have no idea what awaits us. So just everybody just be really quiet and move forward as we go through the year and just be safe and be careful. It's a weird time going on right now.
That is very true. Weird times. Commissioner Hefner.
Hey, I'll be brief as well. Hello,
What's your mic number? 9?
9.
Says your own.
Okay. Happy New Year's. Just to reiterate, Commissioner Justice stated, it's a couple of things I just want to point out. I did hear back earlier this week. Thanks, Mr. Martin, for reaching out to Mayor Hutto on the tornado siren. It's hard to believe I'm saying this, but tornado season is coming up on us. It'll be here before you know it. So from what we're understanding, that tornado siren is going to be put back in place come mid-February. So just wanted to make sure that everybody is aware of that. And I don't know if there's any communication that's going to come out with regard to any testing. Might be a good idea that we look into that just to kind of keep everybody's nerves to a minimum. So with that said, I'm not a big Alabama or the Ohio State fan. So, but I will vote, I will root for the SEC. So with that being said, roll Tide.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
Well, it's either that or the Ohio State. So
Luckily, you've got 3 years before an election at least. So, the only thing I can point out about that game is somebody's got to lose. That's the only good thing I can see coming.
I don't like either one.
Commissioner Mullally.
I don't have a report other than just sent out December newsletter the other day, jennifermullally.com.
All right. Thank you. I'll just add Happy New Year. Thank you all. Thank you all that's reached out to the family, and it's been very appreciated, some of the kind words that you've spoken. So say happy birthday to Commissioner Hefner, who recently had one. Would that conclude my comments? But recognize the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor, Board of Commissioners, those that were able to be here tonight and those out there watching. I just want to wish everybody a Happy New Year and also encourage everybody to continue to be diligent in their safety, especially with COVID. I know there's a lot of people out in our community that are suffering. A lot of have been sick. And I think most of us now probably know somebody, unfortunately, that's passed as a result of this terrible pandemic and virus. But I know a lot of folks are asking about the shots and things of that nature. We're working closely with the Wilson County Health Department. I see Captain Chandler back here. We're communicating with them daily, and we hope to have new information coming out daily to get out to our citizens. But until we can all get around to all being vaccinated, we just encourage everybody to continue to be diligent in all that you do, and just know that this city is praying for you and for those that are out there that are suffering or sick or ill. And that concludes my report, Mayor.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. With that, we will move into the business portion of the agenda. All right. The first item of business is item 8.1, an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2021 budget ordinance 2025 to appropriate funds for the design and construction of a traffic signal at the intersection of Lebanon Road and South Green Hill Road, and traffic signals at Curd Road and North Mount Juliet Road, and a traffic signal at Oak Hall Drive and Mount Juliet Road. Is there a motion?
Motion.
I'll second. Any discussion? All right.
No.
All in favor then signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I would, since it passed anyway, and I figured it would, I think I'll take my vote as a no, only as a statement. I agree with the signals, only as a statement that out of concern about the exit of the post office. So it's not in opposition of the signal. It's only a statement out of concern that I would continue like to see that addressed, to see if there's anything, we could do about it. So again, it's not, I support the signal. So since it passed, and I knew it would, and I wouldn't let a no vote not pass it. I'm just making a statement
All right.
out of concern.
Nothing says I agree like a no.
Okay.
All right. Nine, an unfinished business ordinance, second reading. Let's see, 9A, an ordinance to rezone properties known as Davis properties being found at 808, 830 North Mount Juliet Road, map 77H, parcel 6 and 7, from Office Professional Services, OPS, to Commercial Town Center, CTC.
Motion?
I'll second. It is on the floor. Any discussion?
I've got some discussions. Appreciate all the citizens that came out for citizen comments. Mr. Cunningham took a lot of my thunder, so I won't repeat what he said. Literally, I mean, it's almost verbatim what's in my notes. But really, there are three aspects to look at, and the pros and cons and the adverse effects that this property and the rezoning is going to have on not only the citizens that are residents right behind these properties, but also the citizens and the non-citizens that travel up that corridor. I know we say the traffic is just it will get to it at some point, but we have a massive problem across the street that's going to at some point be bulldozed, construction, trucks. We have a unique situation with this property where it's within 1/8 of a mile of a major interstate. To think that fast food restaurants are not going to draw traffic down to that area where it's already congested, I think is being a little naive. To think that potentially pawn shops, jewelry stores, banks are not going to be subjects of criminal activity is naive. I've not once heard of a chiropractor getting robbed, but I could be wrong. I'm sure there's some instances where that's happened. Even retail, we had recently a brick thrown through a retail store not too long ago. So the fact that crime is drawn to these types of businesses that are going to be allowed there if this zoning goes through, it's going to happen. The noise, again, I'm not going to reiterate a lot of the things that were already said, but people have been through enough. I am all for capitalism. So the owners, you have the ability under the current zoning to rebuild a multi-tenant building. If you want to occupy one of the spaces and rent it out to other businesses, you can do that under the current zoning. In fact, you can also open up a restaurant, which is also allowed for under the current zoning. At some point down the road, we're not prohibiting you from coming back at a later time and asking for rezoning. That's always an option. But as of right now, that property at this time, I am strongly against the rezoning.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else?
If no one else does, I do, but only, y'all go first. Anyone else?
Go right ahead.
Okay. This rezone decision has been a difficult one for me. I don't like making these hard decisions, but they have to be made. Nevertheless, at the end of the night, someone is not going to be happy with the outcome of the vote. Comments on social media by some indicate that the city is wanting and pushing for this rezone. So to clarify, this is not the city. Two individual lots owned by business owners are the ones making the request, not the city. So just to be clear, that's not the case. This particular vote tonight is only for the rezone of 2 lots out of a total of, I think it's 13. Someone can correct me on that. But at the same time, we also had to consider what kind of precedent we would be setting by rezoning if and when other property owners make the same request. Being in the seat means that I have to consider all sides, the residents, the business owners, and what might be best for the city as a whole. I appreciate the residents of Clearview inviting me to come hear their views and concerns the other night. I also reached out to the 2 business owners that requested this rezone to get their perspectives as well. There's been so much loss as a result of the tornado, and most, if not all, are still trying to rebuild. This applies to residents as well as business owners, which, by the way, are small business owners who have been a staple in this city for many years. Many are from Mount Juliet and want to stay here and rebuild here in order to continue providing their services to our residents. If I was one of the residents along Barrett Drive, I wouldn't want to see any changes. So I don't blame their opposition. If I was one of the business owners, I can certainly understand where they're coming from by wanting more options. Either way we go, we're never going to see those rent style houses as places of businesses come back. I personally like the look being across from the school. And as sad as it is, they're gone. Something is going to be built there. So the question is what? We all know that under CTC zoning, it would mean more tax revenue for the city. However, for me, that is not a determining factor in my decision. My decision is based primarily on the perspective of the residents and the small business owners who both lost everything. So with all that said, I want to take into consideration the concerns residents expressed the other night, which primarily were noise, lights, late night hours, increased traffic, crime, possibly roaches and rodents as a result of living behind food establishments, and CTC zoning being a hindrance to the education of students at West Wilson Middle. I personally don't get that one, but that was on the list. I'd like to make sure that we all understand what types of businesses could be built on these lots under current OPS zoning if nothing changes. First, under OPS, there is no limit on operating hours. Second, another business property owner located at 854 North Mount Juliet Road has already been approved under OPS to build a one-story professional office building with 5 tenant suites. And please know that if that plan was for 2-story, that would have also been approved because that is allowed. 2-story is allowed. And third, it's my understanding that an additional business property owner has already made a request for a rezone to CTC. So if nothing changes, what is currently allowed under OPS? I'm taking this further into more detail. A gas station, and this is for the public. This is for the public. A gas station and convenience store is allowed under OPS with a 2-pump limit, a full service, as Scott mentioned, a full service dine-in restaurant, bakeries, barbershop, beauty shop, candy, nut store, dairy, drugstore, fruit store, hardware, health spa, cleaners, meat and fish market, shoe repair, funeral home, advertising agency, commercial cleaning, broadcasting, Chamber of Commerce. If they wanted to build a second location, it could go there. Labor unions, political organizations, travel agent, government office, all levels, federal, state, and local, including post office, police, and fire, child care facilities, museum, ball field, rec center, healthcare facilities, a cemetery, mausoleum, and a holding place for cremated remains, religious facility, nursing, banking. There's many more, but I chose to list the ones that might create the most noise, lighting, and traffic because those were the concerns expressed. Another thing I would like you to realize specifically about the distance from the school regarding beer sales. If the tornado had not destroyed businesses and the school in this area, the distance of 500 foot minimum eliminated an option for beer sales and liquor by the drink. As it was, 3 specific locations on the north end of this stretch were just a few feet less than the minimum 500, which was 500. So for example, 1316 Clearview Drive was at 479.5 feet from the front door to front door, whereas both 904 North Mount Juliet Road and 1323 Clearview Drive, which is Withrow, are because he's still there, and were 498.9 feet. So that's like 1 foot. So in saying that, if what is rebuilt on these 3 lots and when the new school is built, if the distances of their front doors exceed 500 feet, a dining restaurant will be allowed, which is allowed under OPS, could serve beer as well as liquor by the drink, as well as a convenience store selling beer. So that is a real possibility. Packaged liquor stores are off the table regardless of the zoning, because I believe that's 1,000 foot minimum, and someone can correct me on that. So as you see, if nothing changes in the future, any one of these business options could potentially create additional traffic, noise, lights, late night hours, and possibly issues from living behind any food establishment. And so this is your current situation. So let's talk CTC and consider the advantages and disadvantages of setting a precedent by rezoning to CTC. One advantage, in my opinion, considering the location, it would eliminate gas stations and convenience stores. That would not be allowed under CTC. And again, it is allowed under OPS. One advantage to me, which I think would be kind of nice, which I think these two business owners are kind of looking at, would be a coffee shop and a sandwich shop. Disadvantages, in my opinion, would be fast food, drive-in, drive-through, Sonic, Burger King, whatever. Vehicle storage parking lots. If an RV owner wanted to come store all their RVs there in this huge parking lot, that's open possibility, as well as tobacco and vape stores. And by the way, tobacco and vape stores have no restrictions as far as being in proximity of a school. Additional allowances under CTC beyond what's already mentioned, bowling alley, billiards, arcade, which I'm sure the students would love, dance studio, karate, fitness, antique store, thrift store. So basically it just opens more retail options such as jewelry, hardware store, appliance, paint store, shoes. So this is, as Jessica mentioned, this is a 5-lane highway. And as the city grows, zoning changes. It's just the way it is. From a section of property across there's a section of property across the street from the traffic signal at Murphy Oil that is zoned CTC, and from Weston Drive all the way north to Lebanon Road, the majority of all that zoning for the most part is CTC. So from a city perspective, it does make sense that this stretch would eventually go CTC. And as a side note, if it ever did, this stretch would never look like Lebanon Road because, no offense, but that was one of the complaints. And the reason for that is none of the zoning on Lebanon Road is CTC, with the exception of only 3 smaller locations. Just a few minutes. This is for the public. Okay, keep in mind. I say that because it was also brought up the other night, as I was saying. So I personally don't have a problem with what these two particular businesses owners are asking for. I want to support this rezone because it sounds to me like it would be something comparable to Robinson Crossing, which is very nice. I voted yes at first reading because I thought it was worth exploring and discussing further. If the rezone was limited to these 2 properties and that was the end of the story, my vote would be a yes. But my decision primarily has to do more with the precedent, since there are 13 lots involved and what potentially could come and be built along this strip from the school in front of across from the school in front of these residential homes, because they are so close. So despite a 20-foot landscaping buffer and a 6-foot wooden fence that would be required in either zoning, I would be curious if anything I said would have swayed the residents in Clearview in either way. And at this point, could we get Captain Chandler? Okay. Okay. At this point, could we get Captain Chandler to address the crime issue?
We have the chief standing
Our
right
chief?
there.
Sure.
I guess the question is, Chief, do you perceive any difference in crime between CTC and the OPS zoning?
Considering that most of the crime in Mount Juliet come from shoplifting in the big box retail stores.
Right. And I was getting ready to say that most of that has to do with the big box stores and not our smaller stores. We can't guarantee that, but the calls for service and the incidents that have already been mentioned, we can't go back and undo those. And Walmart is not going anywhere. Lowe's is not going anywhere. Those businesses are there. But as it's been stated earlier, even in our other residents in communities, we have crime. What we do is that we'll do the best that we can to protect our citizens and those that are using businesses as we currently do. But I don't see just an overall expansion or increase in crime one way or another.
Thank you, Chief.
Clarification on that? Do you see crime at all minimal or greater on professional offices, professional services,
Professional.
medical services?
No,
So is it safe to say the majority of the crime is happening in non-office, non-medical service
Correct.
related businesses?
Yes, correct.
Thank
And
you.
like I said, other than our big box stores, our mall area where, the shoplifting, that's still, our number one thing that we're dealing with as a police department.
All right. Thank you, Chief.
Okay, so I say all this because others may not feel this way. It may not matter to them, but for me, I have to be accountable for my vote and I have to justify my vote. So this to me is I'm justifying my vote before the public on the front end rather than the back end. So, so unless there's a way to prevent certain types of businesses from being built along this stretch prior to the actual vote tonight, I'm going to have to vote no. And if it weren't for the homes being so close behind it and with so many struggling to rebuild as a result of the tornado and with the school being across the street, I would have voted yes.
All right. Thank you. Well, with that, I'd like to hear from the applicant, if you would like to.
Thank you, guys. Can you hear me okay?
Hear you just fine.
I'm an audiologist, so that's an important question. I'm Dr. David Genevico. I am, again, an audiologist. I have been in business here in Mount Juliet since 2007. And we have spent the last 14 years of our lives, and when I say our, my wife and I work together in our business, building a great reputation. And like so many people who spoke at this podium just a few minutes ago, we walked up on March 3rd to see everything we'd worked for destroyed. I hope you've never experienced, I hope you guys didn't experience it, but to walk up and see your entire life laying in your front parking lot is pretty disturbing. We scrambled immediately to try to rebuild what we had. We tried immediately to find some place to open up another office. We moved to Robinson Crossing, which I was actually going to kind of make an analogy to what we want to do with this property. And immediately we're shut down by COVID. So we spent all of March, all of April, and all of May with zero income. I am not saying that asking for sympathy, but I am saying that because, like so many people in this community, business owners like myself are dying for some type of return to normalcy. Where I work right now, we are in 900 square feet versus 1,800 before, and I'm paying double the rent. I need a place to go to work. When I started thinking about this rebuilding process, the first thing I thought is, well, I'm just going to rebuild an office. I'm going to go back to 808 North Mount Juliet Road. I'm going to rebuild an office. I had insurance that covered a 1972 ranch house. That's my fault, not yours. But you guys understand the cost of building. I can't rebuild a medical office for $150,000. So if I go back alone and I attempt to rebuild on 808 North Mount Juliet Road by myself, I'm going to be in debt for a long, long time on a piece of property that was basically almost paid for. So everything that we had planned in our family and planned for retirement was destroyed on March the 3rd. Now, that is why I started to have this discussion with Dr. Davis, and that is why we approached Agilitas, because we're trying to figure out a way that we can build something that is going to be beneficial to us, have some help to be able to afford to rebuild, through rent and tenants, but also build something that we can be proud of and that Mount Juliet can be proud of. I am a resident of Mount Juliet. I have lived here for 15 years. My wife was born here and lived here her entire life. Our kids went to Wilson County Public Schools their whole lives. We care deeply about this community. I care deeply about the North Mount Juliet Road corridor because that is very, very special to me personally. I know there have been comments about noise. I understand that. I know there have been comments about crime. I don't understand those, at least from what we plan to build. But I will tell you guys this, and I will go sit down. Nobody in this city cares more about what goes in on that property than I do. Nobody in this city cares more about the quality of businesses and crime and noise and rodents. I heard about rodents. Nobody in this city cares more about that than I do, because that is where my business will be. It's my name on the building. It's my patients that are walking in the door every day. It is my reputation. It is my future. It is my livelihood. I will reside and work as a medical professional in that building. We will have other professionals there as well. So I appreciate your consideration. I appreciate very much what you guys do for this city, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. All right. It sounds to me like we don't have the votes to move forward on the rezone unless I'm missing something on it. City planner, do you have any recommendation for us before we move ahead?
Thank you. Well, as you know, staff, myself included, recommend approval for this rezone. It fits with our land use plan that the Planning Commission had approved several years back. So we actually put it on our consent agenda and support the rezone request. I know that there have been several of you asking about a PUD overlay. I don't know if that's something that you want to look at. Maybe have the applicant request a deferral tonight and look and see if they might be interested in moving forward with the PUD overlay, so their project doesn't die tonight here on the floor. So that may be something that you want to talk to the applicant about. But I think that that would be a great way to move forward and make both the residents, you guys, and the applicant comfortable moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've heard some things. You know, the crime, it is real. Crime's a real, impacts us all when it happens. But I think the majority of the examples at least came from the CMU next door, the zoning over there. The hours, OPS, while tends to give hours that are more compatible with things, it does not prevent it. Leaving it OPS, the door's still open for those things to happen. I think traffic, all businesses are going to create some traffic. If it's not going there, it's probably going to go down the road. The one advantages I could see with the OPS that was brought in, I think this is one of the legitimate concerns from it, is OPS is more, and I'm looking at you to correct me if I'm wrong, but OPS is more restrictive on the sounds that can come off the property. It's not measurable off the sound.
Based on the uses permitted.
Based on the usage. The other one is lighting.
In general, it's 1/2 foot candle at the property line
Okay.
for all zoning classifications.
That was the biggest ones on it, but I think there was a little bit of comparison to apples to oranges between CI, CMU, and then lumping CTC in with that. But that said, I'm just curious as to what if the applicant would entertain maybe a deferral, look at a PUD on this to try to get some.
I would like to clear one thing up while I have the floor. Pawn shops would never be permitted in CTC or OPS, nor would the RV storage. That's in automotive. The automotive parking that is called out for the for that section in the ordinance is just for a parking lot, typical of what we have in our north lot. Thank you.
Well, I will say that straight zoning is always appealing to the client. But I have heard what your concerns are, and I would ask that I would ask you, is there a way for us to go forward with the PUD discussion? And we can talk about whether we need to defer that. If there's any way to go forward with the PUD with certain restrictions on uses, I will say it was never Doctors Davis and Geneva Co.'s intent to have a Burger King tenant or anything like that. There had been discussion about prohibiting drive-through altogether. My only request with that would be that you consider the possibility of a bank tenant or maybe a dry cleaners. I do think the intent, unless I'm missing something, is to prohibit the fast food user, which again was never their intent. I do know there had been precedents on a previous rezone for going to the PUD with it being more restrictive now so that my client would not lose time in the process. As you heard, he has been leasing property for some time. If we could, I guess I need to hear from you what type of conditions you would be looking at with a PUD before I could advise them. Is there a way for us to have a little bit of discussion? I do have a concept plan that we had put together that showed a 20,000 square foot, 2-story building. You won't see a rendering because we all know what the building requirements are here, but it does show a building, parking, ingress and egress.
From what I'm hearing, and I may be reading the tea leaves wrong, I don't think there's a path forward on the straight CTC. I've met with the applicant, met with the residents there. They do have a lot of concerns on it. I think they know their voice is being heard, but at the same time, I'm very sympathetic to the business owners here. I'm just seeing if we can get to some middle ground on this thing and maybe find a path forward. Commissioner Justice, I think you had a question.
Well, it's actually not a question as much as a statement. At this point, I think, excuse me, actually, I don't think I know. Based on the dissertation from Commissioner Mullally, I'm pretty sure it was a no vote, right? That's going to be happening. We know that Commissioner Hefner is going to be voting no, so it's pretty much stopped in its tracks at this point for it to go to CTC without any kind of conditions.
Right.
We know this to be a fact. We know that there are a variety of issues that the homeowners over there had. I met with some of them, along with Commissioner Mullally, and all of us have met with those homeowners over there. In the early 2000s, I was really excited to deal with this issue. And I remember vividly saying, let's get this right so we don't have to go back through this again. It was kind of like eating crushed glass. It was that unenjoyable. So, and here we are. And I feel like I'm eating crushed glass again. What I would ask is that we defer this tonight, let you get with staff. I would even love for Mr. Cunningham to get with you guys and see, because I mean, he is top notch when it comes to commercial realty, real estate. He knows what he's talking about. He also is, as he said, a capitalist. So he's going to have the best interest, obviously, of his neighbors, but he also knows some of the issues that are involved. So he might be a very good source for you to get with. See if you can't work these issues out and bring it back at another meeting. It ain't going anywhere tonight. We figured that much out pretty quick.
I was going to make a deferral, but request for deferral, but Commissioner Hefner wanted to make one more comment.
I just want to make one more comment. What I understand is he's looking for retail. Is that correct? That's his main.
He would like that option.
Okay. So the problem that I have with that and the rest of the residents is those types of establishments can be open beyond a typical OPS ending time. So today, typically doctors are open from 9 to 5. When you start entertaining or bringing in retail, those hours are going to extend beyond that time frame. We have children that live back on Barrett Drive, potentially, right? That are going to be subject to cars, vehicles parking, coming in and out of that back parking lot due to the extended hours that comes with retail. And if you've been out there, we're not talking 100 feet, we're talking 30 feet from their kitchen window.
Well,
So
the buffer would be 20 feet.
Well, my point is, if what he's going to come back with is allow for retail, all we're doing is wasting time. Because if you're going to come back and try to come up with a PUD that's going to allow for retail.
Well, I would tell you that Nippers closes at 5. Sister's Whimsy closes at 5 or 6 o'clock. The Sugar Pea, I think consignment, they close at 6. I mean, there are many retail uses that do not operate into the late hours of the night. We're not talking about a national brand, I mean, a Walmart couldn't go there. So I'm not
So is your client going to
sure.
ensure that these hours are shut off at
I don't
5
think
p.m.?
that's possible.
Okay.
But I could tell you that there could be an eyeglass retailer. There could be I'm just trying to think of things that even are medically related that are retail. But those boutique stores don't stay open that I think he would want as a tenant. I can't speak for the other owners. I can only speak to my client right now.
If I may. What about Walgreens?
Walgreens would be a standalone, but there could be a drugstore that wanted to partner with them. Now,
And now you've got a drive-through that is being used. You have a large
Correct.
building that stays open generally till 10 o'clock at night.
drugstores don't always. Mom and pop drugstores sometimes close earlier than that.
Walgreens is open till 10. So
I haven't seen Walgreens on the end cap of a professional building.
You have or have not?
I have not.
Okay.
Remember
Again,
I
these
mean-
are all issues that we're probably not going to settle tonight. So it'd be best if they could get them put together and bring this back and do it, have a deferral for the night.
And I will say, I appreciate your feedback. Mr. Cunningham, maybe we do need to speak with him, but I mean, he has enlisted a development team that has
I'm not
experience with
suggesting
that.
he
So I'm
partner
just-
with Mr. Cunningham. I'm just saying use him
Right.
as his feedback. He's a very intelligent man. I've known him for a lot of years, and this is his area that he works within. He might be able to give some positive feedback to get somewhere to a point where we can get a positive vote. It's not going to happen tonight, obviously. So my suggestion is we take the deferral and move along.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of strong feelings both ways on this here. So I'm not surprised that it wasn't worked out tonight, but I'm going to go ahead and make the motion that we defer this one meeting
Second.
to January 25th. Second here.
I'll support a deferral, but I do have a question for you. Would you entertain the thought of holding a town hall meeting as an opportunity to come to the table and find a compromise with the residents?
I've been meeting with the residents for the last week and a half. What are you asking? Are you asking for them to come back and meet with the owners?
Well, take into consideration, in case they didn't know everything that I pointed out in detail tonight, perhaps, they maybe weren't aware.
To me, you
of
just
certain
provided additional reassurance as to why they would not allow for a CTC zoning.
Well, maybe so, and that's the reason I was going to
Mayor, if I
vote.
may,
I mean, they
we've
were
got
already-
a meeting,
the way I
we've
did.
got a
So-
motion in a second.
We got let's stay on topic of the deferral. And if there's any discussion on the advisability of a deferral, you pros and cons, all in favor of deferring this one meeting to January 25th, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay,
That passes 3-1.
just wasting time.
The next item of business on the agenda is the appointment of a District 2 Commissioner. I'll just add this. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, asking the commissioners if you have any comments you want to make before we get started. I will start out by saying I have emailed all of the applicants, all 6 of the applicants. I have had interviews. 5 of them replied back to my first questionnaires. I've had interviews with 5 of the applicants on there. They're all wonderful people. I realize I've got 6 friends now in District 2, and we'll probably end this with 5 less friends. I get that going in, but I do appreciate their willingness to serve. Does anybody else have any comments that they want to make before we open the floor for nominations?
Can we clarify if we would, I think where we're going to start, my understanding was we've got the 6 people who have actually sent in their intent. We've got 30 minutes is my understanding for us to talk about this.
Correct.
And at the end of 30 minutes, we'll take a vote if we need to. I mean, we could take it in 10 minutes for all I know.
Yes.
But at the end of that, if we have not come to a decision at that point, then it's going to go to a special election.
The resolution stated that we set a time period for applicants to submit their name for consideration. That time period ended on December 28th. We then gave each of the commissioners a 2-week period to meet with, talk to, discuss, however they so choose, with the candidates. And the 30 minutes, we have placed a 30-minute cap on the debate for this particular item. So at the conclusion of that will end the debate. We'll either move on. It will, if an applicant is not selected, I believe by law, we have 90 days to place somebody in that office. If we don't select somebody on this meeting, it would come back on the next agenda as unfinished business and still be under the 30-minute cap. But we have a few minutes to do that. If anybody else, if there's no other questions or comments, yes, ma'am.
Okay, I would just like to say that I am honored to be sitting up here on this board with the chance to nominate and vote on a candidate for an empty seat. Because in the summer, a year and a half ago, I was a candidate speaking before the board in bidding for this empty seat. So this time, personally speaking, I think it's unfortunate that the 6 candidates who have applied for the empty District 2 seat won't have the same opportunity as I did to speak before the board and the public for the allotted 3 minutes. We did vote in December to limit the discussion tonight at 30 minutes because when this happened last time, the process got rather ridiculous over how long it played out during each meeting over the course of several meetings. So even though I'm glad it turned out the way it did. So with that said, I would like to motion to allow the nominees, not everyone, but the nominees, the opportunity to come before the board and the public to speak for their 3 minutes. So the residents of District 2 can put a face with a name, find out who they are, their qualifications, what they stand for or not. All the candidates submitted their bios to us and the city staff, but that information has not been shared to the public. I have 7 valid but simple questions to ask each one on behalf of the public. Do you think the residents of District 2 deserve to know who we are thinking about appointing to represent them? Or should they just trust us to know who the best person is without sharing any details with them? I, for one, think they deserve to know. I know that we voted to stick with 30 minutes in a time frame, but in my mind, the 30 minutes should be devoted to the nomination and voting process, as I think I read from, I'm gathering from what you just said, Mayor, outside of letting them bid for the seats before the public. If you want to know my 7 valid, simple, quick questions, I believe the public needs to know the answers to. I'll read them if you want to know. Are you committed enough to this seat to run in the next election cycle in 2 years? Where do you stand on term limits? And if you were to be appointed, would you vote in support of term limits? And what would those limits be? What is your idea of smart growth? What is your vision on bringing more apartment complexes into the city? What would you like to see in the future in the form of parkland and green space in the city? How would you try and promote a more transparent government as a BOC member? And if you were not to get appointed, would you still have a desire to serve the city on a committee as a volunteer by appointment? So with that, we have a motion on the floor.
All right, dies for a lack of second. Good questions. I think I asked pretty much every one of those during the interview process. At this point, if there are no other comments, I'll open the floor for nominations.
Mayor, it's your district. If you have a nominee, I would ask that you.
I will put forth my first choice nomination, which would be Sean Donovan.
And my understanding is that is not required of a second for a nomination.
It does not require a second.
All right.
With that being said, I would ask for a vote for Mr. Donovan.
Well, I have a nomination. So should we
Well,
vote per each one, or how does that work?
Sorry,
I'm sorry, you take them one at a time.
yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have a nomination on the floor. I think in the past, we've taken nominations, then made a motion to close nominations, and then voted on each one in the order they were nominated. Is that correct? Okay. And what was your nomination, Commissioner?
Okay, so we're going to take them all at once.
Is that what we're going to do? I thought we were going to.
Unless I'm missing something with Robert's Rules of
You can
Order.
accept all the nominations and then vote on them one at a time.
Okay.
So we vote on Mr. Donovan first.
As to whether or not to accept that as a nomination, then are there any other nominations? And then if someone else has someone else, then they get it. And then you'll run down the list. Those in favor of A, vote,
Gotcha.
and B.
Okay. All right.
All right, your nomination then.
Okay. I'm going to explain to you, the public, why I'm nominating this person.
Just need a name.
Do I have a legal right to express?
Not really.
I don't?
They're just really looking
Okay.
for a name.
All right. I'm nominating Linda Elam to the District 2 City Commission seat.
I nominate Lisa Neff.
Lisa Neff.
I nominate Bill Trevette.
All right, everybody's had an opportunity to place one nomination. I'll make a motion to close nominations.
Second.
All right. Seeing no objection and a second on that. All right, at this point, I will read the names of the nominees in the order of nomination. First being Sean Donovan. All in favor of Sean Donovan signify by saying aye. Aye. All in favor of Linda Elam signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All in favor of Lisa Neff signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All in favor of Bill Trevitt signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. So we
Can you
have,
vote for more than one?
are we able to vote? All right, then I will retract my vote for that. Then we have, at this point, we have Sean Donovan with 1 vote. We have Linda Elam at 1 vote. We have Lisa Neff at 2 votes and Bill Trivet at 1 vote. That none of the candidates have secured a majority of the votes. So,
Special election. I am personally not going through what we went through with Commissioner Lately again. That was the most torturous, brutal experience that we've ever been through, both for us and for
It was.
And
it was not fair to the candidates or any of them. So at this point, we started this process about 10 minutes ago. We can go through this again and submit new nominations if the candidates receiving 1 vote, there's probably not an agreement on those, but we can move ahead again. I recognize the city attorney who's.
If on the second round, you can vote on each candidate. So if a candidate gets 1 vote and the others say 3 no's, then they can be eliminated. You also run the risk of eliminating all your candidates.
well, we've got 20 minutes to do it.
We got 20 minutes.
So all I'm saying is be advised, if whoever the first person is and the others vote 3-1 no, then that person's gone. Same thing with the second one, same thing with the third one, same thing with the fourth one. And if you end up with no candidates, then you've got a special election.
All right.
Or you can defer this to, not defer it, but it's unfinished business for the next meeting. You've got 90 days from the date the seat was vacated to choose someone.
Or we do have an opportunity to entertain a motion to go straight to a special election, do we not? Can we do that? We have that option, correct?
If this commission says we are not able to choose someone, then you just say, we're at a deadlock and declare a deadlock, and that's it. And then you go to the county election commission and say, we can't get one, so we need a election to be held within 120 days from the vacancy.
Bill us for an election.
Since this is
And
a
we pay for it.
discussion, Since this is a discussion item now, can I read my reasonings for supporting Linda Elam?
I mean, I'll leave it to the mayor. You've got whatever, 15 minutes left.
Well, that's it. It's going to take away from our time, but I'll say go ahead if you can try to keep it brief, please.
2 minutes. Linda served as the city of Mount Juliet for many years, beginning in 2000 on the Regional Planning Commission by appointment, including as chair, elected as District 2 City Commissioner, and served as vice mayor on the board before being elected in 2 elections as mayor of Mount Juliet by the voters. Not to mention, she was also state representative of District 57. Every time Linda's name was on a city or county ballot, the voters of District 2 heavily supported her. She has made it clear that she has no intentions of seeking the seat of mayor at any time in the future, but is only interested in serving the residents of District 2 as she once did. Having said that, if she wanted to run for mayor, she would have done so in the last election cycle. It has been 10 years since Linda held a city office. A lot has changed since then. The city has changed, and I feel that bringing her back to the Board of Commissioners as District 2 representative would be an added benefit, considering her experience and what she could bring to the table. Linda made a point, and I agree. If we appoint someone with little or no experience, this board would only have 2 seats with years of invaluable experience, 2 seats that are brand new, and myself, who has only been here a year and a half in, making it an inexperienced majority. However, if with Linda serving as the District 2 Commissioner, 3 seats would have years of invaluable experience with 1 new seat and myself with a year and a half experience. That to me would be a much better balance to this Board of Commissioners. That is why I'm nominating Linda Elam to represent the people who have repeatedly voted for her, the residents of District 2. She is by far the most qualified.
Commissioner Hefner.
I just want to make a few comments. She was of the 6 candidates or applicants that was not able to speak with. This position, this opening has been known since November 3rd. She reached out to me 2 days ago. So if she's that interested in, voicing her opinions and talking, trying to sway my vote, she didn't do it, calling me at the last minute. With regard to experience, I'm not sure what experience she's referring to. I got 2,600 people that voted for me, and I had 0 experience being a public official. So I'm not understanding what the experience that she's referring to. So,
Well, she has served the city all the time.
Well, and that's
served-
another reason
I really didn't want us to
Okay, that's fine.
publicly get into the
I just
pros and
wanted to
cons
state my reason.
of the applicants here. They've been gracious enough to submit their names for the public, and I'd rather not get into the pros and cons. I mean, you can probably Google any of us and find out anything you want. So that being said, some of it may even be true. I'm going to make a motion that we revote again with the list of nominees that we just presented, unless somebody would like to change or withdraw a nominee. If you want to withdraw, just signal it. If not, I'm going to ask for a vote again on these. We'll vote, according to the city attorney, we'll vote up and down on each of these. Obviously not required to vote, but.
I mean, this is actually a discussion item at this time with our availability to be able to put somebody in the spot. So, Howard, we want to go forward the same way? The same way we did earlier, I mean.
Oh, we're just calling out the list and vote on them?
Mhm.
Yeah, that was my.
So if like the first round went, and so-and-so got 1 vote, for example, Linda, did y'all actually vote no? So would that be a majority, or I didn't hear any no's?
Without saying for the second round, you can do, each person can vote on each nominee. But if everyone votes no against everybody else, 3-1, you end up with no nominees.
So what potentially could happen here is we could wind up eliminating our nominees.
All the.
Everyone up.
Well, we would have 2 in reserve. Based on what I'll just open the floor back up for nominations again, and if you want to put it out there, I'm going to put Sean Donovan forward. Anyone else?
Lisa Neff.
Oh,
Bill Trevette.
Bill Trivet?
all right. I can pretty much see the writing on the wall. So therefore, I would like to nominate Bill Trivett.
Okay, so he's got a second. So city attorney, are we able to vote in the affirmative for more than one candidate? Are we limited to the affirmative?
Answer is yes to your first question.
Okay. All right, then let's vote.
Okay, hold on a second. Explain that, please.
You've got 4 candidates.
Correct.
They're going to come up
Yeah.
one at a time,
3 nominations now.
3 nominations. You've got 3 candidates, so each one will be voted on. It could be 4-0, 3-1, 1-3, however it is. But if you end up eliminating all of those, you can end up with no votes, 3-1 on all 3 of these individuals. You end up with no candidates because the nominations have been closed.
So chances are we're fixing to wind up, the chances are, I'm not saying we are, chances are we're fixing to wind up with these candidates being eliminated as options, correct?
That's a possibility.
If one of these candidates receives 3 positive votes, then they are elected.
Then they're
Is that
elected,
what I'm hearing?
correct.
Do you have to
And it may
vote?
get down to 2-1. I mean, may get down to 2 candidates for another round of votes.
Do we have the option of abstention?
You do.
Okay.
The same as any other vote.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I see us, not a question of comment. I see us going right back to where we did a year and some 6 months.
Year and a half ago.
Yeah. And
I wasn't there, so I'm sure it was grueling.
It was.
It made great TV and better newspaper articles.
It was torture.
All right. With that, Sean Donovan. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Well,
Any?
No.
Okay, 1 no. Any abstentions then? 2 abstentions?
No.
abstain.
You abstain, and yours was a no vote. So I got 1 yes, 2 no's, and 1 abstention. Lisa Neff. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions?
How many abstentions can you do?
As many as you
Abstain
like.
on every vote.
And I will abstain. What's your?
I'll abstain.
So that is 2.
Whoa. That's a majority.
That's a 1-1.
No, we had 2,
That's
2-0.
You have 2 abstentions,
I
1
voted.
no.
He said
No, no.
yes.
Yes.
He was a no.
Oh, I thought you.
No, he
by
voted
light
yes.
sign
Yes.
Being an aye.
Oh, I thought you were no.
No, he voted yes.
All right,
Sorry.
then we'll go
Yes.
to the next.
Yep. Bill Trivet.
Uh,
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Then I'll cast a positive vote for that, giving him, and your vote, sir?
Will be no.
So that,
So Malay, Hefner, and Mannix, yes.
yes. 3 votes for Bill.
Okay.
You got 2 candidates?
We had 2 candidates, 2 with a majority vote.
2 received positive recommendations.
Correct.
Okay. So we've dropped Mr. Donovan then?
Whoever the first one who got, what, 3 negatives or
Correct.
2 negatives and 1 abstention?
We had 1 positive vote, 2 negative votes, 1 abstention for Mr. Donovan.
I'll read my count and we'll confirm it with the city recorder. Please do. Mr. Donovan received 1 positive vote, 2 negative votes, and 1 abstention.
Correct.
Lisa Neff received 1 positive.
No, 2.
That was, yeah, he,
2.
Oh, but then I have that
Sorry, I was
recorded
a little
wrong.
late on that.
Lisa Neff received 2 positives, 1 negative, and 1 abstention. Is that correct?
Lisa Neff was 2 positive and 2 abstentions.
Okay. And Mr. Bill Trivett received 3 positives and 1 negative.
Correct, that's what I'm showing.
What do we have here, Mr. Attorney?
Is that the last two?
We have
Who
one
received-
candidate that had 3 positives, and the
Right.
next candidate only had 2 positives and 2 abstentions.
The 2
They
abstentions
both
don't
go
count.
to the final. You're
All right.
down to 2 candidates now.
With
Even
2
though
abstentions,
one
that
got 2
creates.
votes and one got 3.
Correct.
Okay.
All you're doing is passing them on to the next round.
Well, then, all right, we're in the playoffs.
There you go. Super playoff.
So we're down to Lisa Neff and Bill Trivett then. All right, I'll call for a vote on Lisa Neff. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's 2. And I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote in the negative.
I'll abstain.
So 2-1-1. Bill Trivett,
Pardon me, what was her vote?
Abstain.
abstention.
Abstain.
Bill Trivett,
Yes.
all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Abstentions. Your vote, sir?
Negative.
Negative. So I'll read these, Sheila, make sure we're on the same page. Lisa Neff is 2-1-1. Bill Trivett is 3-1.
Correct.
So where does that leave us, City Attorney? Is that a vote? Does that record a vote affirmative for placing the position?
That affords a vote for replacing the commissioner.
So my understanding then is Mr. Bill Trivett will be placed in the seat beginning January 28th for swearing in, and he will hold the seat until November of 2022,
Next general election.
next general election. All right, congratulations, sir. And I know everybody watching at home is probably thinking that is the most convoluted process they've ever seen, but
Lawyers will.
And they would be accurate as well.
yes, they
so.
would be, but we can promise you, we can provide video footage of much worse examples if needed. And we have a few more items of business. The next item of business is ordinance 11-2, an ordinance to rezone properties known as the Greer property being found at 0 Sundersville Road, map 32, parcel 14, from single-family residence RS40 to single-family resident RS30. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's on the table. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The show passes unanimous. Next item of business is Resolution 11-3, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Mount Juliet stating an intent to provide sewer service within the urban growth boundary. I'll make a motion for that. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, the item is on the floor. Any discussion?
This is Canebreak?
No, this is just general policy.
Oh, okay.
All right, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Next order of business is Resolution 11-4, resolution declaring the City of Mount Juliet equipment as surplus to be disposed of by Gov Deals Auctions. I'll make a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Let's see, the last item of business is an amendment to reapprove the minutes from November 23rd, 2020, BPAC Chairman. This is under, well, is there a motion for this?
Motion.
Is there a second? Hearing no second, the item dies for a lack of seconds. All The last item on the agenda is adjournment. Any opposition to adjournment? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you all for watching and have a wonderful January and New Year.